Question: if God caused everything, then who or what caused God? Well, in our previous presentations, we have provided credible evidences for God's existence. But there is a major question that needs to be answered. Who or what caused God? It seems everything that exists had to have a beginning sometime. So when did God begin? And who or what caused him to begin? Well, if you had a chance to look and hear the previous presentation, one of the arguments that was presented proving the existence of God was the first cause argument. And the first cause argument has 3 points, or it's premised on 3 points. Point number 1, whatever begins to exist has a cause. And point number 2, the universe began to exist. And point number 3, therefore the universe has a cause. And given this argument, a logical question can then ask is, well, if the universe had a cause, and that cause was God, then who caused or who created God is a logical question. I think the answer to this question can be simply provided in this way. In the first cause argument, it's important to clarify that in the argument, I asserted that whatever begins to exist has a cause. It doesn't say that everything that exists needs a cause. Rather, everything that begins to exist must have a cause. If you then expanded this thought that God is eternal, He existed before the universe. He was there before time, before space, and before matter. So He was there eternally before the universe began to exist. So in short, answer to the question, who caused or who created God? Nothing. Because God did not have a beginning. He was there eternally. He was there before the beginning, if you like. He actually created time. He created beginning. He existed before everything else. There was never a moment that God didn't exist, nor will He ever end. And because God has always existed, He does not need a cause. In fact, the question, who created God, is really a categorical fallacy. A categorical fallacy is when one is trying to ascribe the properties of one category into another category, meaning it's trying to force fit the properties of one into another, almost trying to force fit a square peg in a round hole. I'll give it an example. It's almost like saying, well, asking the question, how heavy is your car, is a logical question. It's within the properties of weight. You can have an answer to the question, how heavy is your car? But if you ask the same question to color, how heavy is red color, is a categorical fallacy. You cannot get an answer to that question because you can't measure or you can't weigh the color red. So similarly, if you ask this question of who created God, whoever asked this question will not get the answer because God in itself had no beginning. It didn't exist as we think it exists. He existed eternally. He never had a beginning. In fact, he did not begin to exist. So you can't have an answer or logical answer to this question, except that God never had a cause. He is an uncaused cause, if you like. Therefore, the question, who caused God, is really meaningless. In our finite mind, our limited mind, it is hard to comprehend or even express how something or someone has always existed. I will admit that I will not be able to explain accurately what it means to be an uncaused cause. But I can try that. Let us imagine this. For us, finite human beings always think that something or everything had a beginning because that is our worldview of things. But let's try this. If the world had never created and nobody was around, and if the world was not there, would the concept of 1 plus 1 equals 2 still remain? I would say the answer would be yes. 1 plus 1 will always be there whether we are or we are not. The whole concept of 1 plus 1 will always be there. We can understand that such things as mathematical truths and the laws of logic have always existed and therefore is an uncaused concept, if you like. Our minds cannot really fathom how God has always existed. But this does not mean it is illogical to believe that it is so. We naturally sense that something outside of our universe had to cause it to come into existence. And the eternal Creator God, our Creator God, is the most plausible explanation. Look at Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 28. It says, "Have you never heard? Have you never understood? The Lord is the everlasting God."